Today I'm back in one of my favorite spots to shoot these videos, and it's over by the Normandy Golf Course. Lots of houses around here, beautiful neighborhood. You got the tennis courts here, you got this little workout area we're gonna walk through here, the bay behind me, which you guys will see in one of my cutaways later on. And you couldn't have a more beautiful setting to talk about how your homeowner's insurance premium is going to go up if you live here in Florida. Probably everywhere, but this specifically applies to Florida because on Wednesday this week, Citizens Insurance approved a proposal to increase their rates by another 14.2%, guys. So think about that for a minute. We've already seen insurance rates skyrocket here in Florida over the past couple of years, and that was pretty bad. But it's going to get worse because this is literally the last resort insurance company. If no one else will insure you, then you have Citizens that you can run to, and they'll come in and save the day and write a policy on your home, assuming that your roof is less than 10 years old, because that's a requirement for every insurance company now, including them. Now, this isn't going into effect just yet because the Florida Office of Insurance Regulation still needs to approve this in order for the effect to kick in, but I'm sure it will, guys, because as we've seen everything else in life get more expensive with inflation, and especially insurance here, this is going to happen. And it sounds like one of the main reasons to go ahead and increase the Citizens rates is, number one, they just need that extra money because of all the extra policies they've been taking on recently. So that does make some sense. But also, it's kind of a deterrent as well, because in order to even get Citizens Insurance to begin with, you have to be able to prove that getting private insurance through another provider would be far too expensive, and that's why you need a Citizens Insurance policy. In March of 2021, Citizens had about 569,000, basically let's round it to 570,000 customers that were insured with them. Well, fast forward to today, now it's over 1.2 million. So these guys have seen the amount of people that they have to cover more than double in just 2 years. And a lot of this has to do with the fact that private companies are charging way more now, so more people qualify to get Citizens Insurance. And the other part of it is that you've seen a lot of insurance companies fold up and flat out leave the state of Florida over the past couple of years, whether they just gone out of business or they just choose not to write any more policies here. And people just don't have as many options as they used to either. So there's all these things working against you as a Florida homeowner to basically get affordable insurance. So that's a big problem. Citizens is now anticipating by the end of this year, they will hold over 1.5 million policies. Imagine that. Their policies will go up 3x in about 2.5 years. That's insane. And don't forget, guys, every time I make one of these insurance update videos, let's not forget one of the other important updates from a previous video, and that is if you have a Citizens Insurance policy, now you're required to pay for flood insurance on your property, whether you live in a floodplain or not. It doesn't matter. So Citizens is not going to be the super affordable option that it once was. That's part of the reason why they're doing this, because they want to make it less appealing and less like the last resort option, because they're already getting completely overloaded. And even though they don't run the risk of going out of business like regular insurance companies do, it still puts a huge strain on the company, because they have the right that, hey, if we can't pay all of the claims, say there's a major hurricane again, and their reserve funds get wiped out in order to pay all these hurricane claims, well, they have the ability to put assessments on all different types of insurance throughout the state of Florida to cover that payment gap. So if they're $100 million short on paying claims for the next hurricane, then they can make everyone else's homeowners insurance go up, everyone else's car insurance go up, everyone else's boat insurance, whatever you pay insurance on here in the state of Florida will likely rise in an event like that. So it just goes to show how fragile this insurance system is here right now. And I wonder how many people that are actually moving to Florida are aware of this, because clearly Florida has been one of the most popular states for people to move to by far for the last several years, and the pandemic just helped fuel all of that. And so many people come here and are just completely blindsided by how much it's going to cost them with homeowners insurance. One of the main appeals to moving to Florida is the fact that we have no state income tax, which is beneficial for retirees. That, along with the beaches and the warm weather, sounds great until you buy a property and realize that your property taxes are going to be sky high, because the purchase price that you're likely going to pay will also be sky high, and that's a reflection of that, combined with your extremely high insurance premium. So people that think they're going to move here and save a ton of money coming from wherever they're living right now is probably not the case, unless you're coming from somewhere like California or from New York, where it's just so expensive that it literally still is cheaper to come to a place like Florida. But if that's not you, then that's probably not the case. Now, switching gears, let's talk about tiny homes for a minute, because I saw this interesting story about more people moving into tiny homes and buying homes due to how affordable they are. And I'm starting to wonder if tiny homes are going to be the new starter home in America, because traditional homes like the ones we're walking by, back in the day, these probably used to be starter homes, guys. When you go back and look at the selling prices of these homes back in the day, a lot of these homes sold for 50, 60 grand 30 years ago, which is insane considering now they're all like 1.5 million or more. What can you still get that costs 50 or 60 grand? Enter the tiny home. Tiny homes can be a good stepping stone for people that want to own a real house. Sorry, not a real house, because a tiny home is a real house. Own a larger, more traditional house, okay? Tiny homes can be a good stepping stone for that, because you can save so much money by living in one, assuming you can keep your income the same and stack away that cash to maybe move up into a larger home one day, if that's even your goal. In a recent survey, it was determined that 32% of Americans are interested in buying a tiny home. And I think that's a pretty high number, because that's almost a third of anyone who might be potentially interested in buying a home, right? So that's a large segment of would-be home buyers that might want to do this. And get this, 68% of tiny home homeowners, they don't have a mortgage. So that's like 2/3 of all of them that don't have a mortgage, and that's pretty solid, guys. And when you don't have a mortgage payment, that can save you a ton of money each month. I mean, imagine not having to pay your rent. Well, you don't have to imagine that if you live in California. You know what I mean. So imagine not having your mortgage payment, not having a rent payment, and being able to still earn the amount of money that you make and save all that money. I mean, always for me, ever since I've been living on my own, rent and now the mortgage has by far been my largest monthly expense. And I could save so much money if I didn't have that payment, but that takes a big chunk out of my monthly budget, just like most people. But there are some downsides to this, guys, because one of the main reasons a lot of tiny homeowners don't have mortgages is because they can't get one. They're very difficult to finance because they're kind of in this gray area where they're too expensive to get like a personal loan and buy it that way. Most of the time you can't get a personal loan over like 30, 40 grand. In order to get a traditional mortgage, usually lenders won't lend on anything that's less than $100,000 because for them it's just not worth it. You know, they have to do all of the same underwriting steps to lend on a small mortgage as they do on a large one. So similarly to real estate agents, The money is in the higher sales value of the property. So there's trouble getting finance with these properties. Now this is strange. You have two properties right next to each other that both appear to be for sale, but this first one here sold almost a year ago in May of 2022 for $6.6 million. And then the one right next door is actually a flip. Somebody bought it for $3.7 million in 2021, and someone's actually taken the bait 2 years later. They listed it for sale for $8.4 million, got a contract right away. And who knows how much they're paying, but I'm sure it's pretty close to that $8 million mark, and this person's gonna make a fortune. But interestingly enough, there is one company out there called Eclipse, and they will finance some of the tiniest homes you can find that are only like 120 square feet, which I don't know how anybody lives in something that small, but you're talking for $99 a month, guys. So I do think this has a legitimate place in this affordable housing crisis, but there are more downsides that come along with this, because one of the other main issues with tiny homes is where do you put it, right? You can't put it in a neighborhood like this, right? You can't have a plot here, an empty piece of land, and say, yeah, I'm gonna put a tiny home here or 5 of them here, and yeah, they won't let you do that in pretty much any city, almost anywhere. Usually you're limited to more rural areas, which might not have utility hookups and things like that that you're probably gonna need. That can be expensive to get those installed in the property, for example. But one solution that some smart developers are using to get around this is they're opening up what essentially would be equivalent to like an RV park, okay? And they're putting tiny homes in places like that. And the advantage of that is it's legal, it can be done, and you can put a lot of tiny homes on a relatively small piece of real estate. It ends up costing people a lot less to have something like that versus buying their own plot of land and hooking up utilities and doing all of that. And the caveat to this is that these tiny home parks, since they're so similarly ran to RV parks, the way that they're getting these projects approved is this has to be operated on leased land, okay? So you have this big giant piece of land, just like an RV park, just like a mobile home park, and the land is leased. So the people who have the tiny homes there are paying rent to keep their home on this land, right? Now they're subject to the same problems that these mobile home park owners are facing right now, which is the rent going up exponentially to drive people out. And you know that's going to happen to these tiny home parks as well. It's inevitable, because at some point someone new will come along, buy up that leased land, and come in and charge double or triple to get people out of there so they can do what they please with it. So that's a good temporary solution to this tiny home movement, but obviously it's not a good permanent solution. So keep this in mind. If this is you and you're someone who's looking to move into a tiny home and you find one of these parks where you can park it for, you know, $400 a month or something like that, and it's ran similar to a mobile home park, beware of these problems, because this is something that can affect you. And you know, if you get a new landlord that comes in there and says, well, now we're charging $1,200 for the same lot rent, you know, can you afford that? Do you want to pay that? And now, is it even worth living in the tiny home? Because the whole point is to save money, and you're not going to be saving any money by the time you pay this enormous lot rent and your utilities and, you know, whatever else comes along with this. So just beware of these things if you're looking to move into one of these tiny homes. Now, as if Florida doesn't have enough problems with homeowners insurance, there is yet another problem that occurred recently that you need to be aware of and watch out for, because with all these insurance rate hikes, a lot of people are going to be shopping around for a new policy. Rightfully so, makes sense, right? Everybody's trying to get the best deal and save money, and when you have desperate people, there's always some sort of predator out there looking to take advantage of people like that. And there was a story out of Pensacola, Florida, where this guy started this fake insurance company, guys, and he was really good at faking it. So much so, he was able to get people to sign with him, and he would essentially give them fake insurance policy documents, things that look legitimate, and send it to you in the mail just like a regular insurance company would. You have all the documents there, shows what's covered, what's not, all of the good stuff. Just like scam Bankman Fraud did with the FTX company, that's exactly what this guy did, only with an insurance company. So he took all the money that he was receiving, getting paid in premiums from his customers, sticking it in his own personal bank account. He went out and bought cars, real estate, everything you can imagine. Same formula, different guy, different company. That's the formula, guys. Collect everyone's money, go out and spend it on yourself, and have it be all undercover in disguise of a legitimate business. So, same thing. Luckily, the guy was caught, otherwise we probably wouldn't even know about this, and he's been sentenced to 14 years of federal prison for wire fraud and money laundering. And the judge also ordered him to pay $8.3 million in restitution as part of his sentencing. And I don't know what you guys think about this, but I feel like that is like a slap on the wrist for a crime like this. When someone does something like that and scams so many people out of a ton of money, you know, probably a lot more than the $8 million that he has to pay in restitution, this person should not only be in jail for life, but have to pay back every single penny that was stolen. And my guess is the reason why they don't do that is probably because it's all gone. You know, most of the money is probably gone, squandered on whatever else that he didn't spend on a hard asset. You know, they can only sell all his cars and his stolen real estate to try to get some of that money back, but the monies that he blew on expensive, you know, dinners and vacations and whatever else, that's gone forever. Now, luckily, this guy only was able to defraud 67 people, so he was operating as a pretty small fake insurance company, so at least it wasn't something at scale where he had, you know, 40,000 policies or something that he was trying to write. But it's estimated that once these people needed to actually make a claim, then they've lost about $2.3 million in unpaid claims. These are people's livelihoods you're talking about after some sort of a hurricane or a fire, a liability claim, whatever came up for them, they go to make a claim and they can't get a payout. So if you are a Florida resident and you're going to be somebody searching for a new policy, you better make sure that when you do get a new policy, that it's with a legitimate company, someone you've heard of before. And if it's not with someone you've heard of, do your research, guys. Look them up. Check them out on the Better Business Bureau. You know, look for reviews. Like, there was a lot of negative reviews for this guy's business online because he wasn't paying claims, but people that were desperate, probably to get a good insurance premium, didn't pay attention to that stuff. So now is more important than ever to just do your diligence when you're looking for a new policy, because it's going to be easier than ever to get burned.
You know, they might as well just rename this place to Flip City, because this house is listed for $2.7 million. They bought it just in August last year, haven't even owned it for a year. They bought it for $2.49 million here, as you can see, and now they're listing it for $2.7, trying to make an easy $300K. But if you go all the way back as far as these sales records go here, look at that. 2015, it sold for $620,000. Now, I realize that is not starter home cash, but that is a whole lot cheaper than $2.7 million, and was actually pretty affordable for people around here back then.
Now, how about this? There's a new tech startup called Urban Immersive. They're trying to put together an artificial intelligence platform where people can virtually tour real estate through virtual reality headsets or just their regular computer, whatever, things like that, and also use some sort of AI bot like ChatGPT to answer their real estate questions about the property while they're getting this virtual tour. And basically what this allows people to do is tour different properties using their computer and their webcam and still see somebody face to face while doing this. Now let's think about all this for a minute. On the one hand, okay, this comes in handy and it's convenient for people that are far away from a property that they're looking to purchase, and it gives people a way to kind of see something more than just the pictures when they want to look at a house. All right, fair. Think about it from this point of view, guys. We've had social media now since what, the late 2000s, mid 2005, 2006. I can't remember when MySpace came out, but I remember Facebook came on the scene shortly after that, in like maybe 2006, 2007, whatever, right? And we've had social media now for almost 20 years. It's been the better half of 2 decades now. And what have we learned from social media? Everybody thought it was going to be this revolutionary thing where, you know, people can hang out online and this is going to be better than hanging out in person. This new real estate touring technology is marketed as something similar, like, oh, this is going to revolutionize real estate and real estate tours and all of this, and it's going to make things so much better. Is it? Because from what I can tell, ever since social media was invented, things have just deteriorated in our society, the way people talk to each other and treat each other, and the divisiveness and just different things like that, like we see happen with the elections now, and you know, this hate that is brought out with people because there's no face-to-face interaction, and when people can hide behind a computer screen, they do and say things that they normally wouldn't in person, right? And we already know that being on Facebook and looking at people's stuff online and chatting with them there is far from equivalent to hanging out with that same group of friends, going over to a get-together or hanging out with them in person, and how that experience and interaction would be. They couldn't be more different than each other. They're not even close to the same thing. In person, you pick up on social cues that you don't when you're online with someone or just texting someone, and you get to see their body language and understand more of what they're saying and what they're feeling. That just doesn't come through when you're online with somebody. And similarly to real estate, to me, it's the exact same thing. Touring a home virtually might be a good, quick look around, but think about this, guys. Look at this house right here, okay? We're walking by this house. You can't get down and close and personal to the foundation over there and see if there's any cracks and check out under the roof soffits up there. Are there any hornet's nests, infestations? You can't walk through the house and flush the toilet, make sure that's working properly, the plumbing's okay, and that there's no leaks under the sink or some hidden room that people used to be locked up in. You know what I'm saying? There's all these things that you can't see with these virtual reality tours. This is just another one of those things that's being promoted and marketed as like the next big thing that's supposed to be better or replace real life, when in fact nothing's ever going to be better than walking through the actual house that you want to buy and making sure everything is the way that they say it is or the way that you want it to be, that you're never going to be able to see in a virtual reality tour. And I don't care how good this technology gets, it's never going to be better than the real thing. It just isn't, okay? Just like me walking around outside this beautiful neighborhood, the metaverse is not going to replace this, ever. It just isn't. There's smells out here. There's sounds. There's real life people walking by that I could stop and talk to or touch or whatever, you know? So that's just something you're never going to have with an online experience. Let me know what you guys think. Is this something that you would be interested in? Are you gonna tour real estate virtually and not even go see the house anymore and just buy it like that? To me, that sounds like the dumbest thing ever, because there's so many things you can miss, and as if people don't have enough buyer's remorse with all the mistakes they're making these days with buying a home. This is just gonna be the next thing to add to the list, if you ask me. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you click the bell notification down below. YouTube will alert you every time I post a new video, and if you don't want to wait, check out my next one on the screen right over here, and I'll see you in the next one.